So this is a story about me, myself, and I, and how I created 4 companies in the last 15 years, and just a bit about myself. Who am I? Who is Alexandra? Well, first and foremost, my name is Alexandra Victoria Hammond. I was born in London. I was raised by both of my parents. My father's American from Los Angeles. My mom is from Italy. She's from Milan. Both of my parents, engineers, bankers, Morgan Stanley, World Bank. I kind of grew up into that environment of super working parents. I was an only child to my mother. I was basically raised a little bit by myself. My parents were lovely human beings, but of course it was all about business and working hard, work ethic. So I grew up in that culture of banking, trading, finance, managing money. We then moved to Paris. I was between South Africa with my grandparents, Milan, and Paris. In Paris, I then started to learn French around 10 years old and kind of grew up in a system, right? We have to wake up really early in the morning. I'm going with my mom. She's going to work at basically 7, 8 a.m. So she took me. We'd get up at 5 a.m., ride horses. That was my passion, go to school. My whole education was about doing well, succeeding, and of course, why? To make money. It's all about making money at the end of the day. Neither of my parents are entrepreneurs, but I had something in me where I thought, I don't want to be stuck in this 9 to 5 job. I want something that's more inspiring. I want something that's going to make me make more money and be my own boss. Things changed. I then decided that I want to get my studies done and start working very quickly. I graduated from high school at 16, then went straight on to university. I did a business degree, bachelor's in business administration, and then I did an MBA. I was all done and wrapped up by the time I was 21, and then decided I'm passionate about horses and horse riding. So I had one goal, the Olympics. I dreamt of the Olympics. I loved horse riding. It was my passion. It was my everything. I got married very young to my husband, Edouard, at the time. I was 21 years old. I worked in Germany and Holland, and I trained and decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. From then, we transferred to Portugal. And Portugal is where my husband at the time, his family was based. So I was offered an opportunity to ride an amazing horse and train for the Olympics. That was my everything. It was my goal. It was my dreams. It's all about waking up at 4 or 5 a.m., riding 15 horses a day, sweating away, crying, everything you name it, I did that. It's all about basically what you put into it, your motivation, but your dreams exceed the amount of work that you're putting into it. It exceeds the pain, and that's what my drive came from. And both of my parents were very much kind of on that mentality of you want it, you have to work hard for it, you need to work really hard. So that's what I did. Until unfortunately, I had an accident, a horse riding accident, and then a ski accident where I very badly injured my back and I injured my knee as well. So that kind of shot my Olympic dreams. And at one point, there I am at 24 years old saying, I'm selected, I'm supposed to go to the Olympics, and then everything comes crashing down. At this point, I think, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit here and cry, or I'm going to make something out of my life. My business mind came into play, and I said, I love horses. Let's do something with it. I started trading horses. I started buying horses in Europe, buying horses in Portugal and Germany and Holland, and selling them, training them myself, and then selling them in the US because I'm American too, so I had some connections there. And that was amazing. So for about a year, I was doing that nonstop and making quite a lot of money. Super successful business. Until at one point I said, okay, this is great, but I feel like I need more. I need to use my brain more. I need to use my connections more. There's something that's missing. So at that point I said, okay, I love horses, but let's keep this a passion and let's not make this work anymore. I then ventured by myself to China, to Kuwait, to Dubai, Middle East. And I just said, okay, I'm going to spend a couple of months just out there with no specific plans, but see what I can get out there. I was trading anything that I could. I have that in me, commodities, wine, cheeses. I mean, you name it. I was doing that the full time. And whilst I was in China, I started hearing about golden visa and this interest in buying properties in Portugal. Something hit me at that point. So I came back to Portugal, and this was, mind you, just after the recession in 2008. And I looked around, and my husband at the time said to me, well, this is something that we could do because his family was in real estate. So I said, right, let's set up a real estate agency, a real estate consultancy firm. I mean, now you need to know something. In Portugal, when I moved there, it was dead cheap. I mean, everything was, there's buildings that were for 800 euros per square meter and now being sold at 20,000 euros per square meter per unit. Think about that at that time. And this was 2014. So I started looking around, walking around the roads of Lisbon, having in mind that I'd been to China and there was a lot of investors interested in the country in itself for the visa. I said, okay, there's something I want to do. I want to use my finance background here. And I want to use a little bit of my skills of saying, okay, this property costs this much. This is how much it's going to be to renovate it. And here are investors that could buy it eventually. How am I going to do that? Okay, so I started gathering information, doing my own network, and kind of getting a whole portfolio of distressed assets, let's say. That took me quite an amount of time. Once I had that in place, I did the maths behind it. I ran a couple numbers, a couple stress tests, and said, this could actually really work. Then I thought, right, I'm American. I've been living in France. My mom's works for the World Bank. Let's use some of the connections that I may know. And my husband at the time as well also had some connections too. So we said, let's kind of venture to Paris, London, wherever, and start seeing if there would be any interest in investing into Portugal. Little did I know, there was huge interest. I went to private equity funds, family offices, you name it. And I started kind of pitching the properties in Portugal. So commercial properties mainly. Huge success. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was being contacted by the biggest fund managers, by banks, by investment funds, you name it. And then I just went, okay, well, hang on. I have no idea what I'm doing. I know nothing about this. I just basically understand the numbers, but I don't even understand the areas. I mean, you said Santos to me in Lisbon? Santos? Like, where's Santos? So who was I to try and sell properties in Lisbon, which I knew nothing about? At the time I was living in Cascais, Quinta da Marinha. I actually had a pony in the backyard. We had a goat, we had dogs, we had ducks, we had chickens and roosters and you name it. And here I am trying to sell the city, which I knew nothing about. So I kind of got my map out, started driving around the city and just saying, okay, this is this area, this is this area. But I knew nothing about market studies. I knew nothing about real estate. So I kind of did my own version of a crash course. God forbid, I wish we had AI at the time. And just tried to learn about the areas. And I learned literally on the field. I started taking investors around, showing them different properties, walking into empty buildings. And I became known as that girl that kind of had access to these amazing portfolio of properties. Comporta. I mean, could you imagine that Comporta was a fisherman's village? When I went there, it was just the Espírito Santo family. And it was like just cabanas by the beach. And I started saying, there's huge potential here. I think we should buy land here. So we did. We bought land there and just land banked it. And kind of from there, I developed that reputation of being able to have the right properties. However, what did happen then is I got a little bit too excited. Same thing when I started buying a lot of horses and trading horses. I bought too many at the same time. This happened as well, where you kind of get that, wow, so much excitement, it's going so well, to I'm in over my head, due diligence is happening. I hadn't done my proper due diligence on my clients. I wasn't able to close the deals. I wasn't good at negotiation, and boom, everything crashed at that point. Everything I had built, all those properties were getting swiped right, left, and center from other clients, from other partners, from brokers. And I just went, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have the buyers, I have the sellers, yet I'm seeing the properties being sold to other people. That's where I went, okay, time to regroup and try to really think about it. And I took about 2 months of just learning about the process, making contacts with other agencies, with partners, to try and understand how did they sell properties? How did they negotiate properties? And I did my own little courses online, Tony Robbins, you name it, all those type of things to understand. These are my negotiation skills. These are my USPs. These are the things that I need to work on. I took that time, I worked on myself, and I started then saying, okay, let's go a little bit smaller. I thought that I could be selling these, 5, 10, 20 million euro buildings, when in fact, hang on, let's go back to the very basics. And that's when I started bringing in clients. It was French clients mainly at the time, because you had the non-habitual residency, which was super interesting tax incentives in Portugal. They came to Portugal and they were looking for 300, 400,000 euro properties. And as silly as that may seem, this was great money for me. If I was making 5,000 euros, 6,000 euros a commission, that was amazing. So I started taking these clients around, showing them properties, learning on the field. And it was super cool because I was learning with other agents as well. They were teaching me, they had more experience than I, and I was just listening and learning on the way. And boy, was it difficult at the beginning. I mean, I even had one client at the time. I was driving them around. It was a couple, and one just jumped out of the car. They got into a fight, husband and wife. He jumped out of the car. I was thinking, what do I do now? Oh my goodness, I have no idea what to do. Yet I kept my calm. I kept on showing properties. They hated things. They loved things. They called me all sorts of names, and I just went, right, resilience. If you know what you're doing, you work with the right partners and the right people, that's how you're going to sell. Bingo. I sold my first property. And from the first property, domino effect. I think the first property took at least almost a year to get that sold, and that was a 420,000 euro property, believe that or not. And it actually was with a partner at the time, very good partner at the time, that kind of showed me the reins and made me understand how to do the due diligence on a property, what to look for. And then I started building my network little by little. More clients started coming in. They started trusting me. It was word of mouth. And I spent my time networking. I mean, I was out at every single event, every single dinner. I was making myself known. I was getting in properties, but I was more on the buyer side, working with other listing agents at the time. So I said, let me focus. And my Portuguese was good, but it wasn't that good yet. It was good, luckily, because I was horse riding. And in the horse riding world, nobody spoke English or French. So I had that going for me. And I just started building my network. Fast forward a little bit, I decided I'm 27. I really want to start a family. So with my husband at the time, we decided to have kids. And that's when I called my very best friend and my business partner, James. So James came on board and I said, let's do this together. So then we rebranded the whole agency. He was amazing at the marketing side as well. I had more of the finance side, and I'd already started the network. He was bringing his portfolio of clients as well from France. And we just re-strategized and just started selling together on little properties, 400,000, 500,000, until little by little we started reaching the 1 million mark. I remember that day like it was yesterday when we sold the 1 million euro property. I think we were just screaming of joy at the time and celebrating, and we're both out and about and young. Even if I was pregnant, I was working every single day. I had my kids. I remember being in labor, and I picked up the phone. It was a client on the phone. And I said, I'm sorry, can I call you back in about 2 hours? And she said, sure, I hope everything's okay. I was like, yeah, everything's fine. I'll call you back. I kid you not. I give birth to my beautiful daughter, Victoria, and I call her back and I say, right, let's close the deal. And she said, is everything okay? Fine, I just gave birth. But that's what it is. It's not even about giving birth. It's a beautiful moment, of course, but I was so happy and enthusiastic about working. It wasn't just about the money. It was about closing the deals, the thrill of it, and just keeping going and feeling that sense of normality. I had my daughter with me when she was a couple weeks old, a couple months old. I was breastfeeding. I was walking around. My husband was with me at the same time. We were kind of showing properties. He was in the car with her. James was on one side. It was messy as hell, you name it. But you know what? We survived and it worked. And yes, like any mother, I was on the floor in tears when I had my two kids at one point. I didn't have any help. And I was just crying, thinking, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. Until I just got up and I looked at them in the face. And I said, well, who am I if I'm not a mother to take care of my children? And if I have my clients, which have become my friends as well, I have to take care of them. So from that point, I said, I want to create something a little bit different. When I arrived in Portugal, I was a little bit ostracized because I wasn't Portuguese and I wasn't part of that kind of background or society. So I said, for all my clients that are coming in, I want to create a community. And especially now, I have kids as well. I have young kids. I want to create that for my children as well, where we can create a beautiful expat community. So that's where I kind of started my journey of hosting a lot of dinners, kind of event planning, if you want to call it event planning, or just kind of getting people together and understanding the lifestyle of Portugal and what made me come to Portugal and why they would like Portugal. So then I became known as that girl that wasn't just on the investment side showing the amazing properties, but also helping out with lifestyle, advising schools, advising nannies. And it just came to that whole point where I want to give my advice. I want to open up my table, my door, basically, my house, for people to come in and to come and share a meal and get to know each other. And that's how expats then grew exponentially in Portugal by that point. So with that being said, things were going beautifully. It was just James and myself at the time. We were working on building the brand, building the business, making a bit of money. I started making a little bit of money myself, and every time I would swap commission for shares into development projects, for example. And that's how I started building my empire. Because if I'm holding on to my commissions, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to spend it. I started investing. And I think that was the smartest move I could have done at the time. Of course, I made many mistakes. So my first property was a property that I flipped actually. It was with my husband at the time, and beautiful little tiny flat in Graça, Lisbon. And I think we bought it for like 180,000 euros and sold it for 350,000 euros. Did the work on it and really got to understand the ins and outs of how to flip a property, what clients are looking for. And that was the beginning of investing, basically. And from that, I started investing into other types of investments, so private equity funds, for example, biotech. There's a lot of things I decided, okay, I want to place my capital where it's going to serve its purpose. So maybe I was a little bit, cash poor at the time, but at least I knew that I put my money to work. And that was super important for me. What happened after that? Business was going beautifully. Things were going very well. We were investing. The business was growing and we had a name. I kind of started to develop that name in Portugal. We were One-Stop Properties at the time. It wasn't Bonte Filipidis. And then everything came to a halt. COVID happened. Uh-oh. How are you going to sell a property when you're stuck at home? No more buyers. Sellers are on hold. We had a super hot market and everything crashed. At that point, I said to my husband, I think we should move. I think we should move to the US. I'm not managing here. We're not doing anything. I even looked at Miami at the time and said, maybe we'll do better there. There's a pandemic happening here. We need to change this. I don't think we can ever manage again. And, I had an idea. And I do have to say, my husband at the time gave me a bit of a nudge. And he said, well, you're good at one thing. You're good on camera. I was like, am I? Am I good on camera? Okay. So during this downtime, after having done my research with people like Ryan Serhant and watching TV shows like $1 Million Listing, I thought, okay, well, you know what? I can do this too. I love camera. I actually went to acting school for a bit, and I wanted to be a wannabe actress. Yes, I really did. I think that's my LA, California, Hollywood style. So I said, you know what? Let's do that. So I started playing around with camera with an iPhone and just filming properties, doing a little bit of drone shots. And I liked what I saw, and it was pretty cool. And take it a step even further, I said, I don't just want to be selling properties. I want to be showing the lifestyle. I want to show why Portugal is so amazing. So after we started getting a little bit out of COVID, or we could start at least going outside, I kind of started filming the areas, locations like Cascais, Lisbon, Estoril, Caparica, different beach bars, restaurants that started opening. And I put together like a whole kind of package of lifestyle, and boom, we pressed play, and that went viral. And that's kind of how I believe that I launched myself, and I didn't even know what was happening. It just went viral. People started contacting me. I had more listings flooding in, more clients flooding in. And at one point, I look at James, I said, James, well, what are we going to do? We have so many listings, we have so many clients, and how are we going to manage this, just the two of us? And, take in mind that I have 2 little kids and no help. What are we going to do? He said, well, we carry on. This is great. We're making more money. I said, you know what, James? I believe in sharing, and I believe that we should make this an agency. So that was the very beginning, just kind of getting out of the pandemic, but still kind of under lockdown, where I started hiring agents. These were friends. These were people that I knew, and we would get together at my house in Cascais. We'd have like a little work office upstairs, and we'd have work sessions every day. And then we hired a secretary, admin, back office, and the team started growing and growing and growing. And that worked. And then we ended up being like 10 people and then 12 people, little by little. Things started selling. We were training our agents exactly like we knew when we trained ourselves. So there was no, let's say, workshops based on Remax or based on the traditional real estate agencies. It was myself, my knowledge, James, himself, and his knowledge, and that combined together. And we were in the learning process all together. And it was fun, it was scary, but it was so cool because one thing is I love teaching. I'm a horse rider, right? So for me, it's about dressage. Dressage is what? It's training a horse. It's the arts. It's training a horse from being a foal, basically, up into a grown horse, and having to, competing. That's my everything. And that's something that I decided I'd love to do with my agents as well, share my knowledge. So we grew the agency, and guess what? it ended up growing so much that we had to get an office. We had our first office in Estoril, and then we kind of built our marketing behind it. And I can't even remember what happened. It just went, it just grew to a point that we didn't even know what we were doing, but it was working. And we kept our image. We changed our name to Bonte Filipidis so that we could trademark it. And that was just like, it was the beginning of everything, really. And I was using social media a lot for promoting my properties, and it started working. I started selling. I remember selling my first property, like 4 million euros, on Instagram or through Instagram. And then I had another one at 2, and then 12, and then even up to 15 million euros just on social media. So wow, it really, really worked. And I created a lot of partnerships, started collaborating with different people. I mean, you name it, lawyers, other agencies, architects, started doing like collaborations with them, learning about what they do, their expertise, and sharing mine as well. So we ended up having like a community, basically, like I love to do, having a community with my expats, but a community of like the network of workforce. And that's where the brand really, really took off. Now, with every rise, there's always a fall, right? The rise was exponential. It was fast. It was just, I can't even tell you how sales were coming in, and we were growing, and yeah, a little bit arrogant at the time. People may say, yes, I was spending a little bit more. I bought myself a Porsche, what to do. But it was kind of that part of the, ooh, I'm successful. And then I started sillily investing into some different types of funds. One where I lost about 150,000 euros because I didn't do my due diligence. But I was just becoming a little bit, okay, I'll invest there, I'll invest there, I'll invest there, invest there, and boom. What happened? Our backbone at the office wasn't strong enough to support all of the agents. Yeah, that was a really tricky period at the time because we realized that our agents started leaving us or they weren't there. Our clients were unsatisfied because things were missing, and we were just in over our heads. I mean, I think with James, we were working 18, 19 hours a day, sometimes even, just not sleeping and doing everything. And we wanted to keep everything for ourselves, and we didn't want to delegate. Crashed. So what did we do? We scaled back a little bit, took a bit of time off. We let go of some agents. We said, right, let's just keep the people that are really necessary to the team and that can work with us and can bear with us. And we started spending heavily on our back office. And that's what, that's what saved us, basically. It was a lot of money, it was a lot of investment. And it was, we were bleeding from it, but we invested into the right people. We trained the right people. We had, the finance team, the marketing team, admin, CRM. We just spent so much time on the company that James and I pulled back on sales. So we probably spent at least a year without selling any properties ourselves, but delegating, passing on that to other agents, and really working on the core, the backbone of the company. Thanks to that, it's basically who we are today. We created that backbone. We've moved into a bigger office. We are now a team of 37 people. We opened up in Ibiza as well. And we became probably the top two or three best boutique agencies in all of the country in Portugal. We sold a property for over 23 million euros in Ibiza. We have a lot, we're doing over 150 million euros in sales. So we've been doing really, really well, and the company's been growing. I'm less on the sales side. I'm more on the negotiation side when it comes to closing clients. I'm still on the investment side because I love investing, and that's my core, and I love helping other clients invest, especially investment funds, into different types of commercial properties, hotels, you name it. So I'm very much on that. And of course, I'm growing the company, being the brand of the company, being the face of the company as well. And people think it's easy. People say, well, yeah, you get huge commissions. You're charging 5%. Do you know how much work goes into that? Do you know how much work it is to take on a property, take on a listing, evaluate it, do a full market study, make sure that it's priced right, negotiate the price with the client, and then market it, pass it out, do all the research, go through your network, and then, of course, do the showings, do the negotiation, do the due diligence. This is months of work. So sure, commissions are high, but do you really realize how much work is there? And then when we have agents as well starting to complain that they want more money, they want more commissions, some people don't realize to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner, it's time and money. The amount of time that we spend in the office, that's time away from my kids, time away from everything else, is huge. I have my kids with me at the office sometimes. They're there, they're playing, they know they have to be quiet, mommy's working. But it's a lot of work, and I don't regret it for a second. But it's administration work, it's back office, it's organizing, and not just that, it's money. every sale that happens is reinvested straight into the company. And people don't realize that. Salaries to pay, I think we've got 18 people overhead, and that doesn't even count any of the marketing expenses, everything else. So as an entrepreneur, that's when you learn you need the right people in your life to be able to say, okay, this is my CFO, this is the money coming in, this is the money going out, these are provisions. And that's where my kind of finance background came into place. And we started calculating a bit better and understanding where to spend, where not to spend, and using a little bit of our out-of-the-box skills to say, okay, this market at the moment is going down because golden visas are no longer eligible for properties in Portugal. The NHR stopped. Right, pivot. What are we going to do? Are we going to stop Portugal? No. We're going to work on a little bit on the lower end or medium range, hire a little bit more agents, sell properties within the 500,000, 600,000, a million, and not only focus on the super high end. And let's go to a new market, Ibiza. Ibiza, it's a second home to me. I love it as well. I understand it. I love selling on the island. And very quickly, I was able to list over 30 properties there, bring in clients, and work on new markets. And that's been amazing. I'm not going to admit, maybe I have ADHD, I don't know. But I do get bored of just doing one thing, or more so, I need to understand if it's not doing really well or if it's plateauing. Okay, time to ramp it up. It's like being at the gym. I love working out, but if I plateau, right, let's ramp it up. Next stage. Portugal, very much under control, doing well. Let's focus on the medium end. Let's really make sure that our clients are happy and satisfied, because at the end of the day, our clients are going to recommend us. So that's my kind of number one focus, and one thing that I tell my agents as well: make sure you have happy clients, satisfied clients, whether it be buyer or seller, and especially the sellers. Because people think, oh, we're selling a property, we're doing them a service. No, your sellers are going to recommend you more properties for sale, even buyers, and much more. You need to work on both sides. Your partners, strengthen your whole network of partners. Your partners are your friends. Think of the word partner. What does that mean? A partner is somebody you're doing something together with. It could be your life partner. It could be a work partner. Partner is a very important word. Nourish those. So that's what we were doing, nourishing our partners, nourishing our clients, maybe focusing on less listings, but doing a really good job with the listings that we had, and doing a really good job with the clients that we had. That is what I really found was important. Service amongst anything else. And that's, being our ethos in all of the agency. And not just growing and trying to get in more things and at any price. No, do just to your clients. Price your properties well, and make sure that you sell the right properties. If you think it's too expensive, or it's not for that client, or there's any skeletons in the closet, make sure that you're transparent. That's something that I live by. With that being said, as Portugal was doing well and was stabilizing, Ibiza is also doing really well. I wanted more for myself, and not only on the professional side, but on the personal side. So that's where I got into a lot of meditation, breath work, some holistic work, and that really helped me manage my stress, manage my very, high energy kind of environment that I've been in, and manage my kids as well, how to educate them. So I kind of learned that less is more, learn to sleep more, maybe network a little bit more, go out a bit less, but also manage my own, let's say, personal internal environment. When I mean internal environment, that's myself and my health. So health is one of the most important things. I mean, without your health, you have nothing. You can make millions, but if you're not healthy, what are you going to do with it? So quality time spent at the gym, wellness, eating right, doing the right type of meditations, and if you want to call it therapies, I mean, I call a dive in the ocean is therapy for me, to be honest, or a cold plunge, you name it. But really working on that side, working on my friendships as well, and maybe having less people around me, but really nourishing those beautiful friendships, and family, especially making sure that my kids are amongst everything else, because they are everything. They are the next generation, and I want to teach them. And I do want to be a mom. I'm still a mom. I'm still a woman. So I still want to make sure that I'm taking care of my kin and taking care of my friends as well. So that became an important factor in my life as well. And my agents, a lot of them are my friends as well. James is obviously my best friend. Still, there was something missing. It wasn't enough. And it wasn't just about the money. It was ambition. I have that little, that little thing in me, a little monkey on my shoulder saying, it's time for more. So what did I do? I invested. I invested into a very big investment fund as well, a €100 million investment fund. We've been building the Hilton Carcavelos. I felt very privileged to be the only woman at a table amongst only men. I love this. I love development. I love investing. Yet I wanted more. There was more out there. And that's when Nigeria came to mind. And I'm quite ambitious myself. And a project in Nigeria kind of fell on my lap. And I decided, okay, this is huge. I grew up in South Africa, in Johannesburg a bit. Nigeria, wow. Okay, I want to check this out. This is a plot of land, 10 million square meters of land in Lagos. What is this about? Flew there with the team, checked it out, and I went, this, for me, this is next. So Europe, I love, great, I've understood it. America is very saturated. Other Western European countries are very saturated as well. Africa, for me, is the next, or Nigeria is the next Silicon Valley. Let's focus on that. And I put a lot of effort into helping understand how to design the city, who we're going to sell it to, and from that, creating a new consultancy firm, which helps African investors invest into Europe, but also invest back into their own country and back into Nigeria, specifically, Lagos. And this is the project Echo Atlantic that I've been working on. This, for me, is not just about, again, it's not just about money, it's about ambition, it's about drive, but it's also about next generation, it's about sovereignty, it's about cross-border references. And I really believe that the world is so small, it's like a playground for me. I see it as a chess game. If you put 2 and 2 together, you create 4, right? But what if we can manage to have Africa in Europe and investing into properties, Golden Visa, for example. Golden Visa, they want a passport. Okay, great. We can help them get a passport. We can help them bring their families to Europe and study into Europe. We can help them invest into the Middle East, into Dubai, for example, and make amazing investments and create wealth. So there's the wealth management side. So there I've got my finance hat on. More so, they can reinvest back into Nigeria, for example, and then we build a city. In a nutshell, basically that's what I've been doing, all the while trying to keep my head, my shoulders. I hope to say that I like to be humble. I don't want to be too, audacious or not just audacious, but in a way arrogant. I don't want to be arrogant. I want to be able to teach. I want to be able to do more. But I also want to be able to show that as a woman, you can be everything. You don't need to rely on anybody else. You don't need to be the one that says nothing in a room, but also you don't need to be the loudest one in the room. You can be quiet without being silent. You can be soft without being weak. And that's the goal that I've been trying to get towards myself and then help other women especially get towards. How can you be that woman, that entrepreneur that runs multiple businesses, that works out, that looks good, that is healthy, because working out and looking good doesn't mean you're healthy, that maintains the family, that maintains that kind of peace of mind? Well, you can do that by organizing, making sure that you have your priorities set, getting the right sleep, but also it's a mindset of, I can. If a man can do this, why can't a woman do this? Why can't I teach my kids how to do this? How can we help others do the same thing? And why does Africa need to stay in Africa and Europe needs to be in Europe and Dubai in Dubai? Everything is so close. It's just a plane ride away. And when I started traveling, I started going, hopping on to different continents, different places, and realizing, wow, the world is actually my playground. So what if we connect people? We ask them to come together. And identity then becomes, I'm not just African, I'm not just Emirati, I'm not just Portuguese, but I'm a blend of everything. I mean, I'm an international school brat, basically. I grew up in international environments without really having an identity. I have 3 nationalities. What if we can create that for others as well? What if everything is all blend and there's no more borders anymore? So yes, okay, we have a nationality and it's beautiful to have pride. But if we're mixing people in the sense of culturally getting together, then I'm kind of blending what I love best, which is having people together, a community, a sort of tribe, but also different nationalities, different cultures, and imagine what we can create with that type of brain power, with that type of cultural experience, backgrounds, if you put those people together. So I'm all over the place, right? You could say, well, where's she going with this? Well, I don't understand. I've created multiple businesses. I've reached that certain level. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the next goal in life isn't just about buying a company, selling a company, or making a company, selling a company, and making more money. It's about community. It's about getting people together. It's about workforce. It's about creating beautiful minds. It's about co-creation. And how can we do that together rather as just solo? I've always said to myself, you can walk a mile by yourself and great, make a couple million, or you can walk a lifetime together as a community and share that. And it's so much more beautiful to be at the top or at the bottom or at the middle, or laugh and cry when you're together as a community and not just by yourself. So with that being said, I hope that I haven't bored you with my story. I just wanted to give you a bit of background about who I am, how I got to where I am, and I hope that I inspired some of you.